everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Copper Jacket TV. So today we got to talk about the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals and yet another decision in Duncan v. Bonta. Duncan is a case that challenged California's ban on magazines that can hold more than 10 rounds, and I'm sure you all remember that just recently the Ninth Circuit came out with its decision in this case where they said that California was allowed to ban these magazines because they're not even protected by the Second Amendment. And the reason they came out with that ridiculous decision was because they say that they are accessories and not arms, and so they're not even protected by the text upholding California's ban. Well, they just released another order that is going to have a dramatic impact on those Freedom Week mags and pre-ban mags as well. So we need to talk about this today. Let's get to it. This video is proud to be sponsored by American Hartford Gold. Listen, if there is one thing that those of us in the firearms community understand, it's that you cannot rely on the government for your protection. Not with your life, and especially not with your wealth. Look, throughout our lifetime, the dominance of the US dollar was unquestioned, but that may be changing. As we face unprecedented inflation, the world's biggest economies are ditching the dollar for the yen. Banks are failing left and right, and the government is discussing a total control of all of your money with the new digital dollar. Don't let your life savings become a casualty of failing corporations or currency wars. Now is the time to call the only precious metal dealer that I trust, American Hartford Gold. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your wealth portfolio with physical gold and silver. With the finest products, amazing customer service, and a buyback commitment. American Hartford Gold has a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. American Hartford Gold supports content like this that is committed to bringing you the truth. Tell them I sent you and they'll give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first order. So call them now. Click the link in the description or call 866-856-2507. That's 866-856-2507 or text COPPER to 65532. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here and what impacts this new order will have. Now, I'm sure you all remember Judge Roger T. Benitez, right? He's also known as Saint Benitez for giving California Freedom Week. I was there. I emptied my wallet. I know a lot of other people did as well, because at that point, for that 1 week period, you could bring in whatever capacity you wanted. So it was a really big deal, and from what I understand, they flowed in by the millions. Now, that happened because he placed an injunction against California's enforcement of that ban and that restriction. Well, 1 week later, he placed a stay on his own order while the case was being appealed up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. But he also said that all of the pre-banned mags and all of the magazines that were acquired during Freedom Week could stay with their owners, and they wouldn't be, they wouldn't need to be confiscated, turned in, or anything like that. They were safe for you to keep and use if you acquired them during that time period. Well, that was an order that was supposed to last until this case was finished. Well, the Ninth Circuit finished this case by saying that they don't believe that these are protected by the Second Amendment. They're just accessories. And so we're going to uphold California's ban. And that got a lot of people very nervous. Well, Michelle and Associates and the CRPA actually had to ask the Ninth Circuit to allow a stay of mandate while this case gets appealed up to the Supreme Court. Now, if the Ninth Circuit refused to stay their own mandate, it would mean that all magazines in California, Freedom Week, pre-banned, all of them, would now be banned under California's law. Well, the Ninth Circuit just issued this order. So here's a look at the order right here from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It's dated April 10th, 2025, and this is in regards to Duncan v. Bonta. It says, appellee's unopposed motion to partially stay issuance of the mandate, docket number 93, is granted. The mandate is stayed for 90 days from the date this order is filed. If within that period the clerk of the Supreme Court advises the clerk of this court that a petition for certiorari has been filed, then the mandate shall further be stayed until final disposition of the matter by the Supreme Court. Now, obviously, that's good news that the Ninth Circuit granted the motion for a stay. That basically means that everything remains the same as it was prior to the Duncan decision coming out. At least for now. There's some key things that we need to take away from this. Number one is that the clock is ticking. That means that the CRPA, Michelle and Associates, have less than 90 days to petition the Supreme Court for certiorari. So they have to send this to the Supreme Court within that time frame, and it has to be soon enough for a letter to get back to the Ninth Circuit saying that it has been filed up at the Supreme Court. So that time window is already clicking down, and we have to pay very close attention to that. The other thing is, there is no guarantee that the Supreme Court will actually take Duncan. The Supreme Court's been absolutely terrible taking things lately. As a matter of fact, Snope and Ocean State have been sitting up there, and I think they're going on to like their 10th or 11th conference now this Thursday or Friday. So they've been up at the Supreme Court for a long time and they haven't taken them, and just about everything else gets denied up at the Supreme Court. So we don't know for sure if the Supreme Court is going to take this. So if certiorari is filed at the Supreme Court and then the Supreme Court ends up denying it and the Ninth Circuit finds out they deny it, then that means that California law kicks in like the Duncan decision was absolutely final. That means that everything that everybody owns in California that can hold more than 10 would then be banned. So again, there's two things that need to happen. They need to file for a writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court within that 90-day period, and the Supreme Court has to accept it. If they don't accept it and they kick it back, that's it. The Ninth Circuit decision stands. Everything is banned in California. So we have some really important dates that are coming up here, and we need to watch this one very closely. We need either the Supreme Court to take Ocean State, or they need to take Duncan when it gets back up there. Now, there is a little bit of a better chance that they'll take Duncan over Ocean State, and that's because Duncan's already been to the Supreme Court once. This thing's been through the entire process now twice. The Supreme Court ended up GVRing, granting, vacating, and remanding back down to the Ninth Circuit. When it comes to Duncan, Duncan kicked it back down to Judge Benitez. That's where we got Freedom Week, right? And now it's back up at the Ninth Circuit. So there is a better chance that the Ninth Circuit is going to want to correct this, being that they've already kind of gone through it once. So there's a little glimmer of hope here that they might take it. But again, if they don't, then, you know, there's going to be a lot of boating incidents in California. Just something to consider. Wanted to make you guys aware of that. This is really important news because it kind of tells you what's going on with what you have now and what you can do with it. So everything's going to remain the same. It's as if the Duncan decision has not come out yet. So for anybody out there that was kind of worried about what they can do or what they have or whatever, you don't have to worry about it, at least for now. We just need to make sure that they file for that writ soon and that the Supreme Court takes it. Otherwise, we're you know, pretty much screwed. Anyway, I wanted to make you all aware of that. Thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. That subscribe button is always very helpful. And you guys have a good day.